Hey everyone, welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today, looking into insurance underwriting.
Really interesting field.
Yeah, we've got this awesome guide from RoleCatcher.
Yeah, they're great.
It should give us a really clear picture of what this career is all about.
Definitely helps to sort of demystify it.
Exactly. So, underwriters. RoleCatcher calls them experts in assessing and minimizing risk.
Right, and it's a crucial role. It's about, it's kind of like trying to predict the future in a way.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean?
Well, they have to analyze tons of data
Mm.
to figure out how likely something is to happen.
Okay, so like a fire or maybe a car accident.
Exactly. Or even something like a data breach, which is a huge deal these days.
Absolutely. Then what? What do they do with that information?
Well, based on that likelihood, they determine how much it should cost to insure against that risk.
So they're not just analyzing what has happened, they're predicting what could happen.
And putting a price tag on it, basically.
Wow. That's a lot of responsibility. So it's a blend of analysis and prediction for sure. But what's a typical day like for an underwriter? Is it all spreadsheets and algorithms?
Actually, it's much more dynamic than people think.
Really?
Yeah, you could be reviewing applications 1 minute, then inspecting properties the
Wait,
next.
inspecting properties? That doesn't sound very actuarial.
It's more common than you'd think.
Why is that?
Well, because a spreadsheet can give you the hard data like the size of a building or how old the roof is.
But it can't tell you if the foundation's falling apart.
Exactly. Or if the neighborhood's safe, or if there are other potential hazards that, wouldn't be in a report.
I see. So you need that real-world experience to get a complete picture of the risk.
Precisely.
So it's like you can read a recipe or you can actually taste the dish.
And get a much better sense of all the ingredients and how they work together.
Exactly. So where do underwriters typically work?
Mostly in offices, but it's not the solitary cubicle life you might imagine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're constantly talking to people, clients, brokers, agents, even real estate professionals sometimes.
That's a pretty diverse group. Sounds like you need top-notch communication skills to navigate all of that.
Absolutely. Being able to break down those complex insurance concepts is crucial.
Yeah, because most people don't speak insurance.
Right, so you're basically bridging the gap between the technical analysis and the real-world implications.
I can see how that would be challenging, but also rewarding. And speaking of challenges, the RoleCatcher guide mentions the potential for burnout in this field.
It's true. It can be demanding. There's a lot of pressure to be accurate. Every little detail matters.
And you're dealing with people's livelihoods, their homes, their businesses. It's a lot.
Right. But that's also what makes it so rewarding. You're making a real difference in people's lives.
That's a good point.
Oh,
Okay, so we've established it's not just about being good with numbers. You need serious mental stamina to handle the pressure and make those tough decisions.
yeah.
What specific skills are we talking about here? What helps someone really thrive in this field?
Active listening, first and foremost. And not just passive listening, but really understanding what someone means, even if they don't say it directly.
So reading between the lines.
Yes. Picking up on those subtle cues.
Okay, what else?
Critical thinking is a big one, naturally, but then it gets interesting. The guide also highlights the need for sales and marketing skills.
Now that's unexpected. I wouldn't have connected those dots. Why are those skills important for an underwriter?
Because at the end of the day, you need to be able to explain those risk assessments to others.
And potentially persuade them.
Exactly. You have to be able to justify your decisions with data, be clear, be concise. It's about advocating for your assessments
So it's not just about crunching numbers, it's about telling the story behind the numbers.
and making sure everyone understands the narrative.
It's like you're translating the data into something everyone can understand.
In a way, yeah.
So what kind of academic background is best for aspiring underwriters? What should they be studying?
Business, finance, economics, those are always good.
Makes sense.
But don't discount the importance of math and stats.
Right. Gotta love those spreadsheets.
It's all about analyzing the data, seeing those patterns and trends.
It's interesting. When you think about it, insurance touches practically every part of our lives.
It really does.
I mean, you've got insurance for your home, your car, health insurance, even pet insurance now.
Even your phone, probably.
Oh, right. And within that, there are so many specializations.
Absolutely. You could go into property and casualty, which deals with, things like fires and thefts, natural disasters.
Or if you could go into life insurance,
Yeah.
health insurance.
Right. Or even more niche areas like marine insurance.
For ships.
Yeah, or aviation insurance for airplanes. It's pretty diverse.
So let's say you've figured out your niche. What's the career path look like? Where do you even begin?
It usually starts with an entry-level position, kind of like an apprenticeship, really.
So you're learning the ropes from the more experienced underwriters.
Exactly. You'll be assisting with reviewing applications, maybe doing some property inspections.
Getting that hands-on experience we talked about.
Right, and learning how to analyze those basic policies.
Building that strong foundation. So then what? How do responsibilities change as you become more senior?
You'll handle more complicated cases, of course. You'll be making bigger decisions, dealing with larger
See,
policies.
higher stakes?
Definitely. And eventually you might even be mentoring those entry-level underwriters.
Yeah, coming full circle.
Exactly, passing on that knowledge.
It's interesting, though, because the guide mentions how technology is becoming more and more important in insurance. How is all of that impacting the role of an underwriter, especially with AI and automation becoming so prevalent?
It's a big question, for sure, and it's something everyone's thinking about.
Because on one hand, it seems like AI could automate a lot of the routine work,
Totally. Data entry, preliminary risk assessments, even some aspects of actually generating policies.
which would free up underwriters to focus on more of those, high-level tasks that require that human judgment.
Exactly. Digging into those really complex cases, visiting a property firsthand, consulting with clients to find solutions that really fit their needs, it's exciting.
So it's not about AI replacing underwriters, but about giving them better tools.
Augmenting their abilities, for sure.
Okay. But for someone just starting out, it's easy to see all this technology and think, oh, is my job going to be obsolete in 5 years?
Right, I can see that. But it's actually the opposite.
How so?
Because the key is to learn how to use those tools to your advantage, to become what some people are calling a hybrid professional.
Hey,
You've got that deep insurance knowledge, but you're also fluent in data analysis. You understand how these systems work.
so instead of being afraid of the technology, you embrace it.
Exactly. It makes you even more valuable, more competitive.
Makes sense. And the RoleCatcher guide, they actually highlight how companies are already using AI to streamline the whole underwriting process,
And create much more personalized policies.
which is great for the industry and great for the consumer too. But even with all this talk about technology, the guide still really emphasizes the need for underwriters to be constantly learning.
Right, because the industry never stands still.
New regulations pop up, there are emerging risks like cybercrime.
Exactly. Things that didn't even exist a few years ago are suddenly a huge factor.
So how do you keep up with all of that?
You have to be proactive. Go to industry conferences, join professional organizations, even just connecting with other underwriters online.
Networking is key in any field, but it seems especially crucial in one that's evolving so rapidly.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about what you know right now, it's about staying ahead of the curve, being ready for what's next.
Lifelong learning, that's the key.
Are there any specific certifications that are really valuable for underwriters?
The CPCU is a big one, the Chartered Property Casualty Underwriter designation.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
And the AU, the Associate in Commercial Underwriting. Those are really well respected.
So those are definitely worth looking into. But what about gaining experience before you even start applying for jobs? The guide has some interesting advice about that.
Internships, yeah. They're so valuable.
And not just at the big insurance companies, right?
Right. Look into smaller agencies, brokerages, even startups. Every experience is valuable.
So much to learn. They even talk about building a portfolio, which seems kind of strange for an underwriter. It's not like, you're a designer or a writer.
It's more common than you think.
So how does that work? What would you even put in a portfolio?
Case studies of successful projects. Obviously, you'd want to anonymize anything sensitive, but it's a way to showcase your skills.
And maybe writing articles or blog posts about industry topics.
Yeah, anything that demonstrates your understanding of risk assessment, policy analysis, it shows you're engaged.
Like your thought leader.
Exactly. And with social media and all the online platforms, it's easier than ever to build that presence.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Skills, career path, the impact of technology, the importance of continuous learning. But what about actually landing that underwriting job? What's the interview process like?
It's interesting. It's not your typical job interview. They're really trying to see how you think, how you approach those tough decisions.
Because that's what underwriting is all about, right?
Right. And often you don't have all the information you need. You have to be able to make judgment calls.
So they're going to throw you some curveballs.
Probably. Be prepared for those behavioral questions. Tell me about a time when, scenarios.
They want to see how you handled a tricky situation in the past, because that gives them clues about how you might handle things in the future.
Exactly. They're looking for those real-world examples that show you can think on your feet.
So instead of just listing your skills, you're telling a story that illustrates those skills.
Right. And stories are much more memorable. They stick with people.
That's true. Makes it more real. What other kinds of questions should people be ready for?
You'll definitely get some questions about ethics.
Ethics.
Yeah, because underwriting isn't just about the numbers, right? It's about making judgment calls that can have a real impact on people's lives.
You're dealing with their homes, their businesses, even their health in some cases.
Exactly. So they want to make sure you've thought about those ethical implications, that you have a strong moral compass.
So it's not just about being smart, it's about being a good person too.
It's about doing the right thing, even when it's difficult.
Which kind of brings us full circle of that final thought from RoleCatcher.
About the whole data versus human judgment thing.
Right. How do you see that relationship evolving in the future of underwriting?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will underwriters basically become data scientists?
Relying solely on algorithms and models.
Or will there always be that need for human intuition, for that gut feeling that you can't quite quantify?
Because sometimes the data tells one story, but your gut tells you something else.
And sometimes that gut feeling is based on years of experience, things you've seen that aren't reflected in the numbers.
It's like data can give you those broad patterns, those trends.
But it can't always capture those nuances, those one-off situations that make every risk unique.
So it's about finding that balance.
Absolutely. Between the power of data and the irreplaceable value of human judgment.
It's not either, it's both.
And finding ways to make those two work together seamlessly, that's going to be really interesting to watch.
Absolutely fascinating. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today. Big thanks to RoleCatcher for that awesome guide. It was really insightful.
Definitely recommend checking them out.
Yes, go to their website. They've got tons of resources there for anyone looking into a career in underwriting or just exploring their options.
And no matter what field you're interested in, remember to stay curious, never stop learning.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.